What is up, everyone? We have a lockdown crossover today because of COVID. Thanks a lot, COVID. I'm Chris Manning. That is Brad Rowland. This is a Lockdown Cavs, Lockdown Hawks crossover. On this show for Monday, December 20th, we're going to talk about Cavs Hawks being canceled because we don't get to have nice things. We're going to talk about East standings because both the teams are in the thick of it, and it's going to be a good time. That's all coming up today on whatever podcast you're listening to, Lockdown Cavs or Lockdown Hawks. And if you're making one of these shows your first listen, you should go check out, Locked In NBA is a great second listen for the day. To remember, as your first listen, we're thankful for making us your first listen, and we're free and available on all platforms. So come check it out.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Brad, you and I were talking before we got this going, and you had said that this was really the first time that the Hawks have been. Would you say they've been impacted by COVID stuff? Because Trae Young obviously was out before this, and then we found out that not only were Evan Mobley and Isaac Okoro in COVID protocols, but 5 other Cleveland Cavaliers, most notably Jared Allen, were going to be unavailable. So the Cavs were not able to field a functional basketball team to go play in Atlanta on Sunday after they played Saturday in Milwaukee. This is obviously just an ongoing issue in the NBA, but is this the first time that the Hawks, from just you thinking about this, that they've been really readily impacted by COVID, aside from the fact that like there was a season halted and they had to finish a year in a bubble and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, on the Hawks side, this is easily and I think really the only prominent example of a player entering protocols. And it got to the point today where at least some Hawks fans, I'm not sure how many, but at least a few of my mentions were confused and thought that the game got postponed because Trey had COVID or whatever. And I was like, no, it's the Cavs that are the reason this game's not happening. Trey is still in the protocol. That's all we know right now.
Yes.
But it was interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think Hawks fans are not quite as up to speed on some of the stuff as other teams because they haven't had to be. It's been lucky. I'm knocking on wood right now because they kind of have floated between this. And you mentioned it. I mean, 2 years ago, everybody got affected by it, and they had a couple of like other team affected incidents last season. But yeah, this is kind of the first time that it's been, with Trey being the most prominent name on the team by a wide margin as well. It's like, oh, wake up call. Trae Young's in the protocols and Trey's tweeting through it. There's all kinds of stuff going on.
So Trey is just like going to be online guy as he's sitting in the protocols. He's just going to like just tweet through it. I respect it, honestly.
Yeah, he used a GIF of DeMarcus Cousins, which was funny, talking about how ridiculous the pandemic is, and I think at this moment I'm not sure how he's feeling. I think he's feeling okay, because considering the way he's kind of talking about stuff online, and I'm not even sure if he tested positive. You know how this stuff goes. They never say explicitly what happened. It's like, no, he's in protocol. That could mean anything. Everybody's like jumping to conclusions that he tested positive. He may have, but the Hawks are 100% vaccinated, which helps, and that kind of allows you to get out of the protocol faster. We can get into that if you want to, but yeah, a weird night. We were not supposed to be doing this podcast, at least before a game was played, but here we are.
Look, Brad, it's you and I. We're OGs of the network. It's good when we can connect. It's we've recorded in some seminal moments. There was a certain day in 2016 where I came home and recorded after like watching a certain ticker, and it was like my brain just snapped and we somehow recorded a recap podcast of Cavs Hawks, and I don't know how I did it, if we're being honest. I've gone back and listened to like some very old episodes just to like, because I just apparently don't like myself, and that's one of them I just can't do because I think I would just like have like some strong panic attack action. But like I think we should just kind of set the baseline of what's going on here, because there obviously is just the COVID protocol situation is, there's a lot going on in the league, right? Like, obviously, I think Brooklyn is on everyone's mind because of the Kyrie Irving of it all, because they have like Kevin Durant out, James Harden out. Like, there's a lot going on there. But the way this is going, there's a lot of teams dealing with this. The Bulls have had games postponed. This game is deemed as postponed. We'll see if and when it can get made up. I think they've built in some stuff in the schedule. But as far as we know right now, it doesn't seem like they want to push back the schedule in any meaningful way to accommodate some of these games. The Cavs, as I mentioned at the top, Evan Mobley and Isaac Okoro were put in it earlier this week. And then Jared Allen, Lamar Stevens, Denzel Valentine, Dylan Windler, and RJ Nembhard, who's a two-way player, were put into protocols. Windler had a really nasty fall on Saturday night against Milwaukee, which again, we're not even going to talk about, at least on today's show, because of what's going on here. But, it's just kind of a tough thing to have 7 guys out. And then if you include 8 with Colin Sexton, being out this full year with injury, the Cavs just like are down to 7 dudes, and like that's just kind of hard to play unless like they want to make Taco Fall their 8th. But like I don't think like that's like a product anyone is really interested in. As you noted, the Hawks are fully vaccinated. The Cavs also are fully vaccinated. I believe, Brad, that you have to basically pass like you can test out with like 2 negative tests or a conditioning test or something like that, and able to get out of the protocol. Sometimes this is vague to me. Like it's vague to me in exactly like what the like the NFL ones, for as Byzantine as they seem, after being like a Browns fan and like watching that play out this week. The NBA one seems sort of like more confusing to me, despite that like I covered this league. I guess that might just be me, but like I'm just confused a little bit.
It's a little bit more confusing, from what I understand and what I've heard and kind of been told the last couple hours here before we start recording is that Trey Young, in particular, because he is vaccinated, can test out with 2 negative tests as long as they're 24 hours or more apart. So you can't just take 2 back to back and get out. It takes like a day plus. And the big thing on the Hawks side is that they play on Christmas, and they haven't played at Christmas in decades. Like Hawks fans are very, very excited about that. And now Trey Young may not be able to play on Christmas,
Yeah,
which is that's been a number. It's kind of funny. I was telling you that before, but this is a pretty big game that got postponed tonight. Like the Cavs are playing well, the Hawks are not playing well, but they're at least hanging around. And Sunday night primetime game, and it's like half of my mentions were can Trey play on Christmas. It was like that was the first thought anybody had. But yeah,
yeah.
my understanding is that he can test out. And he might not be alone at this point in time. He's the only guy in the protocol for the Hawks. But as you well know, most of the time when this happens, maybe some of the time when this happens, it doesn't always stick to one person. So we'll see.
Yeah, my reaction with this Cav stuff was like, okay, like when we found out that Okoro was in it and then that Mobley was in it, I was like, okay, there's just seems like there's probably going to be somebody else. Like that's just how this has gone. I mean, obviously with the variants in the world right now, with just kind of how things are going around the league, like it is just very unlikely that this stuff like doesn't transmit because these guys are with each like they're not like living together in like a college dorm or anything like that where it's like extremely close quarters, but like they're on team planes together. They are in the locker room together where like I don't think they're wearing masks in the locker room. Like we don't know because like media access in the world of COVID is Zoom, or like if you're tier 1, you don't even really get to like sit at the front of them and when they're at the table for the press conferences, but like you're not getting like the access that we might have before. Like some of this stuff is like very vague in a way that again, like I feel like I understand more about what's going on with the NFL than I do the NBA. And that's a weird thing to like say like the NFL is like sort of getting something right in a way that like the NBA like isn't, because the NBA is typically like I think fairly well, but like we're staring down like a very just interesting pivot point. I wonder how they will handle this. Brad, I almost wonder this, and this is maybe a point to note just because we did see Brooklyn and Denver at Brooklyn and New Orleans at Philly postponed as well. Monday's Magic Raptors game, and then a Tuesday game between the Wizards and Nets was also postponed. I wonder just because Christmas Day is such a big deal. I kind of just like wonder if like a mini pause until then, and just to kind of give people some time to figure this stuff out, like might not be a bad thing because like frankly like Trey going back to MSG is just like a big deal. I think that like these teams just ultimately being healthy enough to like not have to like kind of push through the season is a bigger deal, and like this is just escalating in a very like optically uncomfortable way. And like there's been different comments from players about like how they felt when they come back. Kevin Love, talked about how hard it was. DeMar DeRozan kind of played it down when he just came back from COVID in Chicago. But like it just seems like decisions have to be made. And like I would wonder, there's just like a lot that I think when we look back at this, that I'm sure like Baxter Holmes or like Kevin Arnovitz or someone will like write like a very detailed piece that will pull some of this back. But like I would like to read that when we're like a little more removed from this, because there's just like a lot going on here that I don't quite know what to make sense of. And like, it's just every time we like get a Woj bomb, it's not a trade rumor or something. It's just like, oh, more COVID stuff. And that's just like, no one's having fun, I think, right now.
Agreed. Nobody's having fun whatsoever. And yeah, the pause thing is interesting because there's a whole rabbit hole there. But I kind of made this joke offline. I'm not even sure it's a joke. I think the NBA would use the full College Park Skyhawks roster on Christmas Day rather than postpone that game. Like I don't think people understand the money involved with Christmas Day games. It's by far the biggest part
Yeah.
of the regular season schedule.
Oh, yeah.
And they will do anything they possibly can do to be having those games on TV on those days. It may not be the best product in the world, but that's the thing. Like the timing on this could not be worse, which is not anybody's fault. It's just what it is. But they cannot afford to postpone / wipe off that slate of games on Christmas Day. So it's kind of just like holding on to your hats, and maybe they're being a little bit more careful this week in advance of that. But those games, they will do anything to have those games played.
All right, we're going to come back after the break, talk a little bit more about some COVID stuff, and then transition to talking about the bigger Eastern Conference picture. But first, got to tell everyone about TrueBill. TrueBill is the new app that helps save you money by helping you identify and stop paying for the subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. On average, people save up to $720 a year with TrueBill. Because companies make subscriptions hard to cancel, TrueBill makes it incredibly simple. All you have to do is link your accounts, and TrueBill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your TrueBill concierge is there when you need to cancel them unwanted subscriptions, so you don't have to. Look, TrueBill saves people money. There are over 2 million users. They help them save over $100 million so far. And look, you're going to forget subscriptions. Everyone does it. So just go and use TrueBill. Don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now, TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands of dollars a year. TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. Okay, Brad. So I want to ask you this as someone like who's looking out on this outside Cavs season. The Hawks doesn't seem like their schedule will be interrupted. We're recording this on Sunday. It is too early for me to like fully speculate on what the Cavs altered schedule could look like, right? Because they play Wednesday and then they're supposed to play Wednesday in Boston and then play the 26th at home against Toronto. We don't know what the schedule could look like because these guys are vaccinated, because theoretically they could come and go. You could see guys come back and be able to feel the roster and then things just trudge on. I think that's generally what we're going to see. But like, from just covering a team that, let's just say, had more to play for than last year's Cavaliers or the year before Cavs, when things did get just kind of interrupted in theory, or like at least like there was the specter of this, did you get the sense that like teams were worried, or that Atlanta was worried about like the potential interruption of some of this stuff? Because one of the concerns I would have is just the Cavs are playing well, and like they've navigated a lot of different stuff this year already, and their roster's weird and all that stuff, but like they're playing well, they have momentum, and they have just kind of a flow. I wonder how you deal with like this interruption. And if you're Atlanta, like, and you don't have Trae Young, you're gonna have to. You just can't play the same way you play basketball, and like that's hard to figure out when like you don't get time to really practice in season. Like this is just like weird. Like I don't know how you even approach this if you're a team to try to just like make the most of it, even if you can make the most of it.
For sure. I mean, nobody is trained to deal with this kind of stuff. It's just a very odd. The uncertainty of it is a big thing too. And you mentioned that the Cavs playing incredibly well lately and really all season long. And having that messed up by anything is not great. People that are NBA players and coaches are creatures of habit. They like to do what they do, especially coaches and old school people.
Yeah.
I mean, I covered Nate McMillan. Nate McMillan is the old schoolest of the old school, basically. Like, I can't imagine he'd be losing his mind if they had to go on pause for 2 weeks. Obviously, he'd have to do it, but it's one of those things where no one's going to like that kind of stuff, particularly when things are going well. It was the reaction that I got to this postponement on the Hawks side. I'm talking about the fans, not the team. The fans were like, well, they weren't too bothered, I guess, just because the Hawks have not been playing well. But if you're the Cavs, you gotta, you're not thrilled to have anything kind of stay in your way right now with how you're playing. And yeah, it's if the Hawks had any kind of shutdown or whatever, it would be unfortunate. It would be difficult if they have to play without Trae Young for a week or whatever. That's gonna hurt them a lot because he's their best player. That's very I guess self-explanatory. But if you had to pick one guy for the Hawks to be without, it would. He would not be the one that you want to choose. Let's just say.
Yeah, I mean, clearly you'd rather just like rather have like Onyeka Okongwu, no shade, but over Trae.
I love Onyeka.
Hey, he's back. He's back.
He's back. He looks great. But yeah, no, it's I think this is obviously Cleveland's dealing with the bigger issues as of this recording. Obviously, the Hawks could have some as well, but it's just kind of a nuanced thing where I'm sure everybody will handle it differently, and the challenges are such where it's kind of hard on everyone because of the uncertainty. Last year it was the same thing. They had the more draconian protocols all season long, and nobody had a ton of fun navigating those, but they were also a lot more effective. There were 3 games postponed today in the NBA, and before today there were 2 total postponed in the season, and they were 2 for the Bulls last week. So It's getting worse. That's very self-explanatory at this point, but it's just going to be a challenge for everyone. I know the Hawks are ramping up a little bit more of the protocols, more masking, all that stuff that you can do.
Yep.
Even when vaccinated, just be more careful. But no one's going to be resting easy anytime soon, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. All right, Brad, let's turn away from the pandemic because I just
Please.
can't. Let's talk about the East standings because I think I'm not like breaking new ground here, either for your listeners or mine, that like the Cavs are like better than anyone could have thought. Like I took the under on them in the betting pod we did at the beginning of the year because I was like, there's just no way this team could win. Like I'm like, they're gonna be better, but like winning up more than 26 and a half games feels like a reach. And yet here we are, that they're like, if they would have played the night and won, I think they would have gotten up to like they could have gotten as high as second in the Eastern Conference, which is like kind of crazy. East is, I think, better. I think we would expect than I think it's better in the West this year. That's just sort of like my lukewarm take. But Brad is the man who does the power rankings at our shared employer Dime. Shouts to Dimag, shouts to Robbie, shouts to Bill, shouts to Martin. What do you make of the East and like how it is situated as we're like 30 or so games in for most of these teams?
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. Like, I know you know this, and Hawks fans may not. The Cavs currently have the best net rating in the East by a considerable margin.
It
And
doesn't
that
make sense.
it doesn't make. I mean, I know. I think
They have
you and I
like
talked.
they have like 8 actual rotation players, and they're like Dean Wade is gonna cameo, and like Lamar Stevens is gonna cameo, and we're gonna be fine. And it's like, okay, sure.
So back in October, I know you and I talked around this when the Hawks lost to the Cavs. I think it was like the second game of the season, third game of the season. Hawks fans were melting down because the Cavs were supposed to be bad. I mean, you know this. The
Yeah,
Cavs were
yeah.
supposed to be good, and it's like, oh, the Hawks riding high after this conference finals appearance just lost to the Cavs early in the season. And I mentioned this on my last show on Friday. I was like, that loss doesn't look bad anymore. I mean, it was a road loss to Cleveland, and Cleveland is good, so whatever. But yeah, I don't know if I would pick the Cavs to finish the season with the best net rating in the East. My apologies
No.
to your listeners, Chris.
I mean, no, look, I am like, I've had people like ask me if they're like a finals contender, and I'm like, no, like slow down, man. Like, let's just pump the brakes for like 5 seconds, and we can get there. Evan Mobley like is really good. Like we can be excited about that, but like let's just like chill for a minute. Let's just chill.
Well, I mean, and yes, that's true, and that's what I'd be saying if I was you. Knowing myself, and my listeners are probably laughing right now because I'm someone who, if things are going very poorly, I'm seen as being too positive, and if things are going very well, I'm seen as being too negative. I'm usually in the middle somewhere.
Well, I think
And
that's why you and I get along, is because we're both just
yes,
sort of like we're pragmatic about this. We're not gonna
that's
like
kind
go
of how
too
you
high
have
or
to
too
live your
low.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you have to cover this team every day. You can't ride the wave too much. But
You're
yeah,
a team every day. That's you're goddamn right. We're doing
exactly.
this every day.
But there's a lot to be excited about if you're the Cavs, and like the baseline. I mean, having a defensive rating of like 103 is just crazy. But yeah, I think the East is kind of other than the Cavs. I will say it. Other than the Cavs, the East has kind of been what I expected to some degree. Like the teams that are supposed to be good are good. Brooklyn is good. Milwaukee is good. Miami, when they were not missing all of their guys, is good. Chicago's been better than I thought, to be honest. And the Hawks have been a little bit worse than I thought. But even by the numbers, like the Hawks' record is not good. But they're in the top 10 in net rating too. So it's not like they've just like totally cratered either. So the teams are supposed to be good. And even Philly with Embiid has been pretty good. It's just that they were awful without him. So it's kind of like that Cavs outlier. And then everybody else, there's kind of an explanation. I think maybe the Hawks are like the most disappointing of everybody else in that top tier, or maybe top 2 tiers. But it's a mess. I can say that. I think Milwaukee's probably still the best team when they're healthy, but they've never been healthy all year long. So who knows?
I feel like Milwaukee is still like my title favorite.
I mean, the numbers when they're healthy, when they have even some of their guys,
If they have Giannis, Drew, and Chris, I think they're fine.
Yeah, and they're like plus 12 or something when those guys play. I mean, it's not even when Milwaukee is even semi-healthy, they've been dialed in. But I mean, Brooklyn's still managed to be pretty good even with all of their mess. I mean, KD's been incredible, but Harden's not been incredible. And then you have the Kyrie sideshow and now protocol issues and all that stuff. And
lock that nets for the Kyrie pandemic update if you want that.
Yeah, who knows what's going on with the Nets, but they are. I mean, as long as they have Kevin Durant, they're pretty terrifying. So the East is still good. I have a hard time telling you with confidence who I like in an order of those top 5-6 teams.
Yes.
But I think I do trust those teams, and then Cleveland's kind of the wild card, and we'll see how that holds up. But again, they lead at this moment, Chris. I know you know this already, but they lead the East in net rating by 2.7 points. That's absolutely insane.
They're also like first against the spread by like an insane margin. At least
Oh,
they were the last time I looked. It's like
did it
absurd how well they're
did they
doing.
cover last night? Because if they did,
Oh, I have no idea.
oh, they did. Yeah, they won. So yeah, they're
Oh
20.
yeah, yeah.
I believe they're 24-5-2 against the spread, which is
Yeah.
absolutely preposterous.
The cleaning the glass has a metric that is like kind of computes it out over like 100 possessions, and it's like the Cavs and the Warriors the whole year have been like their own tier of like against the spread, and it's just like absurd how much better they've been. It's wild. All right, after the break, we're gonna sort through like the Cavs being the third seed right now, really, and tied for second uh, in terms of games back with the Bulls, and then the Hawks being on. We're gonna see. We're gonna play a little fact real or not real with those two teams. But first, got to tell everyone about our friends at Built Bar. Look, Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market. I had a strawberry one today. They're great. I mean, you can't go wrong with the strawberry flavored chocolate bar that is protein bar that is covered in some milk chocolate and is good for you. It has 17 grams of protein. You know, most of these have like about 130 calories, as much as 180. Really low net carb ratings. Like all of them are really, really good. Cookies and cream, mint brownie, raspberry, double chocolate. They're all really, really good. If you need a good stocking stuffer for some friends, maybe you have some meathead friends who are trying to get their gains in to start the new year. Get them a mix. Get a mixed box. Give everyone like two, and you're gonna be all set. And you'll be doing the homies a solid. You could try dipping them in hot cocoa as well. You get a little melt, and then you get your beverage a little bit of that Built Bar flavor. That's pretty great to me. Go to built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your order. Again, that promo code is LOCKED15 for 50% off of built.com. And they have a factory second sale right now. So not only do you get that promo code, but you get deals on their factory seconds. Go take advantage of that while you still can. And got to tell everyone about our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered all season for more props, odds, and lines than ever before as the football season continues the march towards the playoffs. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all sports action this season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile site to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. All you got to do is use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball to football to NHL to boxing to UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Do not wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. Brad, do you want to start talking about if the Hawks as the 11 seed is real or not real, or the Cavs as a top, let's say 3 seed is real or not real?
Let us discuss the Hawks first, I guess, because
Okay.
that's the more negative thing. We'll save the positive for the end because the Cavs have been awesome.
Okay. So
Um,
are you pessimistic about what this Hawks team is as of right now?
I'm not actually. I think
Okay.
Hawks fans are, and this maybe ties back to what I was talking about in the last segment about how I'm a little bit more in the middle than most people are. Um, the underlying numbers are decent enough for the Hawks. They're not great, but they have they're about +2 or so per 100 possessions. The offense has been really, really good all year long. They're not, I think number 3 in the league right now as we're talking, and as long as Trae Young is able to play, which is no longer a lock right now in the next couple of days, weeks, whatever. But as long as he's been able to play, they've been really good. But defensively, it's a mess, man. Like the personnel has never been fantastic defensively, and that's always been a concern. Even dating back to last year, the Hawks played good defense late in the season. Clint Capella was incredible, and I said as much on every episode I think of my podcast throughout the entire season about how good he was.
Yeah.
And this year he's been like kind of pretty good, but not the same. And that's not the reason why they've been bad. But last year he was so good that it covered up for a lot of people's weaknesses. And now with the injuries and Capella being more human, they can't get stops. I mean, they got absolutely run out of the gym by Denver on Friday. And Denver, yes, they have Jokic, but that's not the same team that's supposed to be doing that to you. So they got 133 in that game. And I think the numbers are probably a little bit more encouraging than the record. But no longer is this team supposed to be, at least in some people's minds, like a top 3 or 4 seed in the East. Like they can still do that. I want to be honest about that and clear. I think that if they finish 4th in the East still, I would not be surprised. But when you start 14 and 15, you got to dock a little bit of your projection for that. Like I have 50 wins this season. I wouldn't pick that now. I mean, you kind of just can't do that. I mean, they can get there. Last year they got super hot when Nate took over and didn't lose, it seemed like, for a month. But right now it's frustrating. But I think that their personnel and their performance level is better than their record. Is where I would leave it for now.
Yeah, Cleaning the Glass has them an expected win differential. They're 27th in expected win differential based on their numbers. So like they're one of the worst teams based on how they're performing versus what the numbers would say that they should be.
Yep.
Third in offense, 23rd in defense, 12th in net rating, which is, I mean, that's like they're up there with like Memphis and the Clippers and Boston in that like range of net rating. So like, I mean, like this is also just one of those things where it's like Indiana somehow is like 9th in net rating, and I feel like no one takes the Pacers seriously this year.
It's still early. I mean, the thing is, the Hawks, the theory of the Hawks, dating back to when they built this roster around Trae Young and around John Collins, was always like top 5 offense and can you be good enough on defense?
Yeah.
And right now, half of that is happening. And it's
Yeah.
not even that they have to be awesome on defense, but they can't be 24th, 25th, 27th, however bad they've been at different times. They got to be like 17th in defense, which isn't like that big of a difference. Like just be okay, be mediocre defensively, and they're in good shape. They just haven't been that this year so far.
Yeah. So I mean, like John Collins, I quite enjoy. You had him as like kind of an all-star caliber guy, like not too long ago. If I'm not misremembering that, he's been really good as far as I remember.
No, he's been playing incredible. I mean, I don't think he's going to make the All-Star team because they probably needed to have a great record to have him get like the usual buzz that you would kind of need to make the All-Star team. But I think he's been awesome this year. Trae's still their best player, but John's been a strong number 2 for them this year. He's been very, very, very good, and I think nationally still he's underrated. I don't know if it's because of the numbers have not been the same in the last couple of years because of getting more help around him. But man, he's really good.
Yeah. All right. So look at the East. They're 14 and 15 as of right now. There's only 2 teams in the East that can really say like they're done for the year, right? Like Orlando and Detroit. God bless Philip Rossman, right? God bless Kukulia for having to cover those teams. Like good Lord, those teams are bad. The Pistons
I saw Orlando last week. Orlando was
the Pistons have lost. The Pistons, as I'm looking at this now, have lost 14 games in a row. They were 4-10 and are now 4-24.
At least they have Cade. Listen, they have Cade.
Shouts to Cade. I'm a Sadiq Bey and Beef Stew fan as well. But Dwayne Casey, hope you get a really nice Christmas present from ownership there. Brad, do you feel optimistic that Atlanta can avoid the play-in as we're talking right now? Like, do you have like an optimism factor on if they can like get out of where they're at now? Like, and not only like get back into the 7 through 10 range because they're at 11th right now, which is technically just like a tiebreaker thing. It looks like with Toronto, but can they get out of the play-in? Like, can they be top 6 after what last year was?
I think they can. I am less convinced that they will at this point, just because of the uptick in the East and the slow start. I think I'd still probably, if you made me choose, I'd probably have the Hawks 5th or 6th by the end of the season, but with way less confidence. I had the Hawks actually pick 3rd coming into the year.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm not the biggest homer in the world, so that was not. I was coming from an analytical position. I couldn't pick them ahead of Brooklyn or Milwaukee, but yeah, I mean, they're in that tier with maybe the Cavs. I don't know. Chicago, Boston, Philly, that kind of group of teams, and I guess Miami. I don't know. Those 4 or 5 teams right there could be in almost any order from 3 or 4 to 7, 8, 9, and I wouldn't be too surprised.
Yeah, let's transition to the Cavs here as we get towards the end. I think they feel like a top 6 team to me in the East. I'm like kind of there. The wild card with the East is that Brooklyn's really good. The Bulls look very good. I like just trust the Heat. I just kind of do. Like that's a boring opinion. The Bucks are like my title favorites, as I've said. So that's like if you include the Cavs, that's 5 teams. The Wizards have kind of slid. Things seem a little goofy there. I don't really trust Boston at all. It just doesn't feel right to me. And then there's Philly, and then there's Atlanta. And if I'm looking at 2 teams that could really usurp a team like the Cavs that is a little younger still, that is kind of thin, it almost to me feels like if they just get some bad luck, that they've already had some and their schedule's been really hard, and like they're going to have a relatively easy schedule the rest of the way, which is really well in their favor. But like Atlanta and Philly, assuming Philly like Joel Embiid is healthy and things, and like maybe they make a Ben Simmons trade that gives him some needed reinforcements and stuff. It feels like it's just going to be competitive for those spots. And like they've created a little bit of a cushion over those teams. Like they're 3 games better than the Hornets, who are 6 right now in the win column. They're 5 over Atlanta and they're 4 over Philly. I think like the Cavs like have a realistic shot to be like a top 6 seed. Because Brad, tell me when you've watched them, I don't feel like what they're doing is like unsustainable. I have like questions about it in terms of like what is going to last and what is perhaps what needs to be like improved on as we go along here. But like a lot of this feels kind of like real to me.
Yeah, I think obviously I'm not watching them the same level as you every night, which is always an important caveat. But I think the offense kind of feels sustainable, like middle of the pack kind of level in terms of where they've been performing so far. And the defense is good. I mean, when you're playing two bigs most of the time, and some of those guys are really, really good, like Evan Mobley and Jared
Evan
Allen's playing
Mobley.
great, and
Yeah, Evan Mobley, pretty good at basketball, turns
yeah,
out.
we like him. But I mean, I guess the real question for me, and really I think overall with the Cavs is like, I don't think people believe that they're the number 2, 3 defense in the league. That doesn't seem real to me. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it's kinda like where do they regress to?
Yes.
Um, is it number 8? Is it number 15? Like, I don't think it's gonna be that far, but, most of this, like, obscene, stat profile is that they have the number 2 defense in the league right now. So, like, if that doesn't hold, we'll see. But like you mentioned, and that's the greatest thing about this. I think if you ask somebody that wasn't paying attention, have the Cavs played an easy schedule or not from the outside, people might assume that they have, because normally you get a team that's like overachieving, quote unquote, and you assume that maybe it's like a little bit of good luck and schedule's been nice, but it's like no, it's been the opposite for Cleveland. They've actually played this really tough schedule, so it's like
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'll be the first to own this. I usually lean too heavily on priors
Yeah.
before season starts. And I'm having trouble getting there with Cleveland, but like you'll get the numbers and what they have remaining on the schedule and the talent level, and it's like it's real on some level. I don't know if it's this real. I don't know if they're going to be like again a top 3 team in the East this season, but they're not what we thought. They're definitely not bad. Like that's something we can definitely say with
Yeah. Yeah.
confidence is they're not bad anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the Mobley, Allen, Garland core, like, it's just interesting. I know you
It's
are,
yeah.
you, maybe not, I don't know how you feel now, but like, I know you're an Okoro guy coming into the draft. He's been awesome of late. Another Atlanta guy. He did yell War Eagle like after his last press conference before he went to the protocol. So salute to Isaac for just continuing to vibe with Bruce Pearl, I guess.
And I'm sure people in Cleveland are like, "What is War Eagle?" I don't know what that means. And it's
Okay, Brad, you say that like people in Ohio aren't like football nut jobs
well,
with
I
Ohio
know,
State.
but it's not like it's like
You're people
SEC
that aren't
country.
watching on YouTube don't know that you're a Michigan. You're wearing a Michigan pullover right now.
I
So like,
am on brand.
I believe you came on to talk about John Beeline, which feels like about like 19 bajillion years ago. But
That
like,
that
what
did
was it? What
happen.
was the thing that I'm like, hey Brad, can you talk to me about
I
John
guess I
Beeline?
guess I was your go-to Michigan correspondent on the John Beeline thing. Yeah, that happened. That was a long time
I
ago.
know like 2 Michigan fans. They're you and my friend Christian, who is IRL like just sad Pistons Michigan fan, but he's very happy about the Wolverines.
I got lucky and missed the whole Pistons Lions thing. I was birthed into Michigan fandom, but my dad, I think I bless him every day for not handing me the Lions. I never want that. The Lions are
Well, the
brutal.
Lions did beat the Cardinals, so on
They
Sunday.
like in dominant fashion. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was weird, but
Yeah.
alas.
Check out Locked On Lions. But the Cavs, like a lot of this feels like real to me. I want to see what tweaks they make. I want to see how aggressive they are. I guess we should note this came out 20 minutes ago. We started recording. Love when that happened. Shams Charania of The Athletic reported that the Cavs are planning to sign center Luke Cornett to a 10-day hardship exemption.
Oh yeah.
Cornett has played with the G League's main Celtics. Trevor Magnotti, friend of the program, tweeted, Kobe asked JB for what he wanted as a stopgap, and JB just said, quote, bring me your biggest lad, end quote. Sounds about right.
uh, I actually have a question for you on the
Yeah,
Cavs.
hit me.
I was looking at this in brief preparation for this podcast. They are 4th in field goal percentage against, 3rd in 3-point against, 6th and 2-point against, and they're also this doesn't there's no impact here, but they're actually 8th best in terms of free throw defense,
Mhm.
and giant quotes. That obviously you can't affect that, but like,
Yeah.
you think it's real that they actually can test shots at a level like where this is actually real defense, or is it like kind of Knicksy from last year where like everyone kind of agreed the Knicks were getting a little bit lucky on their shooting luck, and it held until the playoffs and then it kind of stopped. But I mean, how much of that's real? Because I mean, if that holds, then this is going to continue.
I think some of it is real, and I think there's 2 reasons for it. Number one, there's the obvious reason that like when you play Jared Allen and Evan Mobley and Larry Markkinen together, you just have like lots of length, and I think that's really annoying for other teams. I just like I think it's weird, obviously, and like they're not doing anything crazy. Like you'll see this when these 2 teams are going to be in the play again.
If they ever do.
Yeah, I mean, assuming they make this game up. Who knows what's coming? Like we have I don't know what's going to go on tomorrow, Tuesday. Like who freaking knows? But like the Cavs will do a thing where like instead of they've done a smart thing, which is instead of having Lowry like fight over screens, if he gets screened, like Jared or Evan just switch onto that guy, and then it's like, oh, this is not easier for me. Like things are. It's I don't know if like someone really smart will probably figure out like a way to counter that in a really creative way, and then like we'll see that happen. But like I would imagine that it's like very annoying for teams who just have all of this length on the floor at all times. And like Markkanen, to his credit, has played hard on defense, I think, and is at least just playing like a bit like a 7-footer, which you can't say he always has done. And Mobley and Allen are just like I think really annoying. Like they're just
Oh,
those
for
two.
sure.
Those it's just like a lot of length and due to like the block shots, and like I feel like that's very tricky to navigate. The other thing I will say is that I think everyone else that has played, even Jetty Osmond, who's not a good defender, even Garland, who I think is like a minus when it comes down to it. Like we've seen Drew Holiday hunt him when they played the Bucks this year. Like they're competing on defense, and like Darius Garland is at least like putting in the work on defense to fight through screens. Rubio, like for what limitations he had, he's cooled off as a shooter, is like a big guard defender. Like he is kind of annoying. Like there are 8 guys that they're playing. Throw Lamar Stevens in there. Dean Wade even is competing on that end. Like they're getting effort out of those guys, and then you have these two like ginormous like shot blocking dudes at the back end, and you just kind of navigate it. And like again, like I think I think we'll see like no offense to Luke Cornett, if he ends up having to like start or something while Allen and Mobley are in protocols, like perhaps they're just going to get like wrecked with him on the floor. And like Taco certainly is not going to provide that same thing. But if you have Mobley and you have Allen, some of it feels real in a way to me that like the Randall, like Mitchell Robinson front court say, like I just think it's like a different class of guy. Certainly there is some luck, right? Certainly there's just some luck in some of all of this stuff. I think there always kind of is, and you get fortunate with some of this. But I do think with those two guys, JB has built a defense that is predicated around what they do. And then Okoro is like the guy that can at least defend the perimeter. Like I really, really wanted to see Cavs Hawks at this stage because obviously Mobley is going to be out and that was took something away from it. But like, I like just love the idea that like JB has decided like if I can be average on offense and then have my 2 really big long dudes in the middle and then have Isaac just dog people around the perimeter. Like
Yeah.
that is my ideal situation. And like JB's like, yeah, that's cool. Like we can be crappy on offense, but we could be like a top 5 defense, and like I can vibe with that. Like I think that's interesting, and I think it against a team like Atlanta that is so geared on Trey, but has other guys that are good, obviously, and it's so predicated on what Trey does. I just wanted to see what that looked like. I just
Oh, I
think that'd
totally
been fun.
agree.
It would have been
Yeah,
really fun.
I think the personnel that Cleveland has too, like they're doing the right thing. Like they don't have wings, as I know you talk about all the time. They don't only have a lot of wings. So like
they don't. And if Brad, I'm gonna. You should go look this up when we're done here. Go look at Jetty Osmond's on-off minutes with Rubio and without Rubio. They're like
I will do that.
it is quite absurd. It is absurd.
And I don't want Cavs fans mad at me for invoking the Knicks comp, but like that's one that I've heard multiple times from people that
Yeah.
are not. I mean, it's not like an insult. It's just the Knicks had a great year last year. They were 41-31 and kind of out of nowhere in the same, not the same way, but in similar fashion to what Cleveland's done. Where like they were not supposed to be good. They were early. They were good early, and then it was like can't keep it up. And the Knicks kept it up all year. Like it wasn't like a playoff ready, but they were still good the rest of the season. It's kind of a similar blueprint. It's different personnel, different kind of systems, but it's interesting to me that comparison I keep hearing, and like I don't think it's a bad thing for the Cavs. And obviously they actually have probably more. I mean, not probably. They have more talent long term too than the Knicks did, which is helpful. I would definitely give me Garland and Mobley versus Randall and whoever for the Knicks. So that's at least a positive in Cleveland's category. Again, like the Knicks were the 4 seed last year, so it's not like it's a negative comp to be like, are they the Knicks? Like I think you take that.
Yeah, look, the Cavs have not been like relevant without a certain guy from Akron in like 20 years, and like even you could argue even like I don't. There's a certain guy that we're number 23. He wears number 6 now. He was in Space Jam.
I remember him. Wait,
Yeah.
Okay.
Brett, he once committed committed devastation in the city of Atlanta.
Once?
Several. Look, I'm trying
more
to
than
be
once.
I'm trying to be kind, okay?
If you want to look it up one day, go check out the playoff record for like Jeff Teague against LeBron James and see how that goes.
Look, the fact that we got the Jeff Teague is a sign that we need to wrap this up. I'm Chris Mitting. That's Brad Rowland. Find us on Twitter. Find both podcasts wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to Locked On Cavs on YouTube. Do me a solid, and fingers crossed the Cavs will get to get this game rematch. We can talk and pray to God for you Hawks fans that Trey gets to go like be a heel in the city of New York on Christmas Day, because I, for one, who doesn't have to cover a game that day, would like to open some presents, drink some coffee, and watch Trey get booed by the Knicks. Bing bong. Everyone have a good one.